So this is the first edition, that is part A of the Khoodeelaar television channel being broadcast from London online on the internet, and this is Sunday, the 7th of March 2021. A very rare kind of piece on the front page or on any page of the Daily Star, which almost recognizes that Boris Johnson is cruel, negligent, and lacking in compassion. And they're mocking him on this front page. This is not Sunday, but this is Saturday's paper. But we are doing it on Sunday because the Sunday papers are not available yet. The shops will be open many hours later. So we are continuing the diagnosis of Fleet Street by looking at the papers of Saturday that we didn't get to look at while in the previous editions dated Saturday. And there is an incredible kind of piece about the Stonehenge being mistaken, according to this piece, by Scarlett, somebody Scarlett, who thought that the Stonehenge monument was bush. And there is a bragging plug for Alan Sugar. Alan Sugar is guaranteed a bragging plug, no matter how wrong he is, how racist he is, and how obsolete he is. And they've got a piece about Ross Kemp, the actor, has revealed how seeing grisly murder photos in his dad's briefcase scarred him. That Telly Hardman's dad, John, was a murder detective and spent 30 years with the Metropolitan Police. The copper carried a leather briefcase and told Ross Kemp never ever to open it. But one day the ex-EastEnders star did and came across snaps of a killing. Speaking on the Kempcast podcast, he said, the opportunity presented itself. I opened it up, and inside were very, very horrific pictures of a man who I found out later had been stabbed to death, so hard they thought He had been driven over. It had collapsed his chest and his lungs, etc., etc. So these are the details. And what the relevance of that particular item is to what we are discussing, that is the campaign for justice for these 4 girls who were betrayed and let down and not protected, not safeguarded when they needed the most urgent and extensive help from the Tower Hamlets Council, because Tower Hamlets Council failed its duty to safeguard children and allowed these 4 girls to be derailed or influenced or whatever, and they didn't, and they haven't shown any compassion, any concern for the safety and welfare of these girls. And 4 of them were quite close, according to the reports, because the 4th one, in addition to the 3 that were together pictured in February 2015 with Shamima Begum, the 4th one had already gone to Syria a year ago, in 2014, and it was, according to that report, in order to convince her and get her back to Britain, that these 3 girls went to Syria. Of course, they were children, and they behaved like children in the sense that if they went for that purpose, it was a stupid way to try to get this other girl back to Britain. They should have, ideally, they should have talked to adults and parents and responsible people. And they most probably would have done had the safeguarding children duty been applied to safeguard them and help the other girl who had already gone a year earlier or calendar year earlier. But that kind of discussion is not on in the Fleet Street papers of Saturday or Sunday. What there is that there is, for example, a column, I think, going to be in the Sun or Sunday, or this common Sunday, a column by Tony Parsons. And his column actually contains a piece against Shamima Begum. We are not talking about the same thing, because Tony Parsons is actually repeating. Tony Parsons is repeating the package of lies and hatred against Shamima Begum and against anybody else with similar background. That is to say, either a Bangladeshi or an Indian or Pakistani girl, and who is deemed by the likes of Tony Parsons to qualify less to become anything like being classed as a British citizen by birth. And that is a racist disqualification by the likes of Tony Parsons. And that is where the concept of prima facie non-entitlement comes into play. It is something I devised in the 80s as a different description of racism. The racists look at somebody and their ethnicity or their presumed ethnicity, presumed nationality as a result of their presumed ethnicity, and then declare them non-entitled, prima facie, on the face of it, on the look of it, on the look of them. So that is what Tony Parsons is doing. Unlike Tony Parsons, James O'Brien, whose 5-minute long kind of broadcast we accessed during Saturday, 6th of March 2021. And he did the broadcast on the same date after the ruling by the Supreme Court, 26th of February 2021, ruling against Shamima Begum and in favor of the appeal lodged against Shamima Begum by the Home Office and the Home Secretary who is present currently, Priti Patel. But the actual decision that appeal actually concerned was the decision by Sajid Javid, who had been Home Secretary earlier when he took away the citizenship of Shamima Begum. And the Supreme Court ruling on Friday, 2021, concerned a ruling by the Court of Appeal, which granted Shamima Begum's application, let's say, for permission to return to the UK so that she could pursue her challenge in the courts, challenge to the Home Secretary's removal of her British nationality by birth. And it was a decision that the Home Office appealed, which is what the decision by the Supreme Court on Friday, 26th of February was concerned about. And the Friday ruling by the Supreme Court dismissed the Court of Appeal and upheld the actual appeal by the Home Secretary or Home Office. Now, James O'Brien talked about that, but he didn't actually talk about even that ruling correctly. But his line was in the correct direction, because overall, when he commented about the British government obstructing, stopping, and denying Shamima Begum the right to return to the UK, James O'Brien referred to the young Nazi, who has been found to have been plotting a Nazi fascist attack in Britain, and he has been let off. His citizenship has not been taken, nor has he been branded in the threatening and very alarming language that Shamima Begum has been labeled. And the difference is, and this is something that part that James O'Brien broadcast didn't contain. It may be contained in the wider 2-hour-long or 3-hour-long program that he presented on the 26th of February 2021. So what he left out, James O'Brien, despite the fact that he was apparently uncomfortable with the decision, and he misrepresented that because he talked about her citizenship being taken away. I mean, that was not the focus of the appeal by the Home Secretary against the Court of Appeal decision, which was to allow Shamima Begum to return to the UK and to best present her challenge to the Home Secretary's taking away her British nationality by birth. The other omissions in the James O'Brien presentation, of course, include the fact that Shamima Begum's nationality has not been taken away in accordance with the law. It has been an illegal act etc., etc. But James O'Brien didn't go into the illegality either. And he also refused to connect the various racist activities and decisions by the particular Supreme Court ruling and the Home Office. Even if the Home Secretary currently, Priti Patel, is not necessarily every day involved with the obstruction of Shamima Begum from coming back to the UK to pursue her challenge of the Home Secretary, whoever it was the Home Office that she would have challenged, not named Home Secretary. It would be collectively the Home Office. She would have mounted the challenge in person. That is not to say that others, licensed law traders, would not be allowed in. They would be. But she was actually challenged. She was challenged by the Home Secretary without any evidence, without any basis that she had committed any crime. And she was then branded as if she had done not one crime, but a series of major crimes, which she never did, for which she has never been either prosecuted, let alone found guilty. So all of that was left out of James O'Brien's kind of LBC introductions. And he also left out the fact, very, very important to us, that the UK remained signed up to various treaties, conventions about the rights of children in the kind of particular remit, particular kind of decision and behavior. So James O'Brien left out the application, the relevance of the treaties, the agreements, the declarations, the conventions that the UK remains signed up to. So had James O'Brien mentioned those, then his particular broadcast would have come across at least as a neutral, informed kind of broadcast, but it didn't. It came across as a broadcast that is based on the Little England mentality. Although O'Brien, as the name suggests, to linguists and kind of analysts of languages and cultures, that the fact that Shamima Begum is of Bangladeshi origin triggered the most persistent hostility to her on the part of the big business in an industry. So this is ending at, this particular part is ending at, let's check the time. This is ending about just around 1 o'clock in the morning of Sunday, the 7th of February 2021. We shall be continuing on Shamima Begum's need and her right and her friend's right to be treated as British nationals by birth and by entitlement as a result of their fact that they were settled before they settled in the UK as ordinary people. And the fact that they were not protected by the Armed Council is going to be elaborated on with new details, new factual kind of form. That is to say, the kind of things that Tar Hunters Council is often found to have done wrong, the negligence and the lack of concern, and the fact that Shamima Begum is no longer a child, but all these protections that she was entitled to as a child should have been delivered to her, and they weren't. And they're not being discussed by anybody except by us, our campaign, which is the campaign. We launched the campaign for justice for these girls and treating them as being children, say, between the time October 2010, when Lutfur Rahman became foisted as the de facto mayor, at the expense of Tar Hunters and at the expense of democracy, accountability. So we shall be looking at all of that in further detail in the next part.